Hey everyone, welcome back to another episode of Reliability BoomBox, proudly brought to you by Reliability Extranet Group Company, the Logic Australasia Reliability Analytics, and so forth. Welcome back, Seven. Good to have you here again.
Thank you very much,
always,
sir.
Joining us for a lovely evening fireside chat kind of thing.
Yes.
We might actually have to do one of these next to a fire one day, since we always talk about the fireside chats.
But
anyway, tonight, I thought, and I actually did give you a heads up for a change, which was nice of me. I thought we'd talk a little about training.
Yes.
So, one of the key aspects of what we like to do, and actually it's the reason why we do this podcast, correct me if I'm wrong, is we like to educate. We like to empower people with the options, the tools, the knowledge to actually achieve or to thrive in their business and to expand their knowledge. So first off, I just want to touch on training. How important is it to you, especially in these two fields? I guess give me your version on the how and why it's so important.
You don't know what you don't know. Okay? You don't know what you don't know. And technology is changing at a rapid pace. Okay? So where I see training fitting in a lot of ways is giving organizations essentially a cutting edge, making them aware of different ways of doing things, okay, new technologies. And it's all about, not training for the sake of training, righto? I know there's like professional development programs and you've got to do a certain amount of training and stuff like that. And it's not for the sake of training, it's for the sake of delivering value. Mm. So as Dane mentioned, we do a lot of training. I do training in various shapes and forms, as in formal classes, virtual classes, and then coaching, mentoring, as well in form, and it's, as you said there, Dane, it's all about getting the knowledge on how to use the tools and processes available to you, okay, to make things better. And you should see, I'm going to use the corny phrase, return on investment, right? You should see return on your investment in your training, right? And a lot of the stuff that we do, Dane, problem solving is all about solving the problems so that they don't reoccur.
Yeah.
Right. So time and money. Okay, saves you time and money. So, and with the machine learning stuff, the solver stuff that we do, again, it's all about time.
Yeah.
Okay. It's all about time, potentially money there as well, because you're picking failures up early. But let's go for time. So what we want to do is invest in training or education. I'm sort of going to steer away from the word training, okay, as in formal sit in front of a teacher's type training courses.
Yeah.
I'm going to go more along the lines of education / learning new stuff, however that is delivered. Okay.
Yes.
However that is delivered. And why do you do that? You want to extract some value out of that knowledge. Yeah?
Yep.
Value to the person.
Yep.
Value to the business.
Yep.
Yeah? And essentially it should manifest itself somehow into it's either going to be dollars or time. Okay? Improvement in obviously in the business's dollars and the people's time. Okay. You'll also see, I think, especially with the solver stuff, and again with this logic stuff as well, the level of activity from your people, you should see a step change. Okay.
Yeah.
So instead of doing I'm going to use the solver as an example, this repetitive data analysis and stuff like that, instead of having to do that repetitive data analysis because it's basically done for you, okay, righto, the people then change their focus and I'm going to change colors here and work to more value-adding activities. Okay,
Yeah.
right. Now, bringing in the problem solving, instead of fixing the problems, they go to preventing them.
Yeah.
Putting tools and processes in place to prevent issues from happening in the business. Now, from a person's point of view, they're probably feeling like they're working just as hard up here as they were down here. The value is a different story.
I think if I can just chime in on that they are possibly working just as hard at preventing when they move up and take that step change as they are if they were just fixing. So their level of enthusiasm is potentially going to increase because all of a sudden they're doing something new.
Yes.
They're doing something different. There's a level of excitement that, like, you and I both sat in that reliability chair and you're going through fixing the problem, fixing up bits and pieces, going through the maintenance plans, checking everything off, and then a breakdown comes and you go and fix that and you're like, oh, another breakdown, whatever else. Then if you all of a sudden shift to being able to go, hang on, all that's being sorted, I can look at this problem and I can dive into this problem. And this is what I've become an engineer for.
Yes.
Now I get to be excited.
Yeah. I think my wife's a school teacher. She talks about higher order learning, or it's a word because she's a teacher, but it's higher order activity, I think is the word I'm looking for. That we're actually working on, instead of like routine, same old day by day,
we're actually working on something with more value.
Stimulating. Yeah. Stimulating personally. Yeah. And I had it today, actually. I had it today late this afternoon where we were helping some people implement the machine learning within Sawma. And one of the guys who comes from craftsman/trade background hadn't seen it before. He hadn't seen it before. So we had to sit down and explain, right, this is a bot. The bot is looking at, there was about 8 different data streams that he's using. He's calculating every second, right? Yep. And he's assessing those data streams on how normal they are, right? So we were able to explain that. And so we sat down and watched this guy working live because we're on a live piece of equipment.
Yeah.
And, there's no secret here. It was a truck, and the truck has suspension, and it's going over roads. Okay, and the suspension's going up and down. And then what was happening was he was hitting big bumps in the road, what looked like big bumps to us from where we sit. And next thing you know, we see this sort of stuff happening instead of this. We're getting these things starting to happen, and the bot was picking up on that. Yeah, because it's unusual for a truck of that size to do these sort of things. And the guy goes, "Wow, he's actually there's a lot of stuff going on here." And I said, "Yeah, there is a fair amount of stuff going on here." And he says, "Oh, I don't have to worry about analyzing stuff because the bot's basically doing it. I just have to worry about when the bot barks up and figure out what in the hell's going on." And and I said, "Well, how about we get onto the radio of this guy and find out what's actually just happened on the truck, because it's just hit something." Oh, right, okay. So next thing you know, he's actually talking to the guy. Next thing you know, he's actually talking about what the guy is actually experiencing in the truck, and saying, and this guy said, "Oh, back there's a big rut that when you come off the digger, there's a big rut that they haven't fixed yet." Yeah. Okay. The bot was seeing it. So you can see there, the guy has moved from having to analyze the data, or not in this case, not even worrying about it, as in wasn't even on his radar that this stuff was available. Yeah. To I'm on the blower. That's an Australian term. I'm talking to my people to help me understand what the problem is. Yeah. If we understand what the problem is, we can do something about it.
Yeah. So if you look at that diagram that you've got there, he's gone from the situation, and you're talking about the strut pressure in the trucks. He's gone from potential strut failure that he's then having to fix. He's having to go through and go, "Oh, I've got to fix this. I've got to get time to get it in," and blah, blah, blah. to actually going, oh, hang on, those struts going up down. They haven't failed yet, but if we continue to drive over that particular point in the road in that fashion, it's going to fail. So now I can talk to the guy on the field, then go realize it's a rut in the road that needs to be fixed. Talk to the production manager and go, if you fix this, we will prevent a strut failure, which means that truck will stay in service longer.
Yeah, and he's also got the
conversation.
Yeah, and if the production manager comes back and says, "Oh, what are you talking about?" Yeah, what are you talking about? I don't understand what you're going on about. He's actually got something to show him.
Yeah.
So anyway, and that was a little bit of education. That was not formal training. That was not a formal training course. That was just me showing how to do stuff. And for people, and just levering off that, and one of the things that I say to my students that interact with me, I said the best way to learn this stuff is to teach it. So teach once, learn twice. So when you learn a new skill, or you see something new that you've just found out and you see it is of value, talk about it.
Yeah.
Show people how it works. Teach people how it works.
100%. I totally agree with that. And that's, I want to message you this afternoon to give you the heads up of what this was about. Tonight's podcast, I thought.
Yeah. It was a very short message, by the way.
it was very short. Very direct. Yeah. It was just that. It was realizing, like, some of you may know my other background, my other life outside of reliability and maintenance is yoga and physical movement. And as a yoga teacher, like, I remember when I started yoga, I learned so much. I learned so much about the body. Then when I started teaching it, it was like a whole new level. And it's the exact same thing. And I totally agree. And that really actually segues me into the next point I sort of want to talk about. And I want to talk about the philosophy that you and I have on this teaching. Because we've caught up with a few people about offering training. Let's call it training, education, guidance, learning, whichever way you coaching, coaching. A million ways, and whichever makes you feel the warmest and fuzziest, because really a lot of them are very similar. You and I share a very similar philosophy on this, and I'd like you to elaborate from your term, and I'll just chime in as I see fit. But give me your sort of philosophy. You kind of hinted at it's like teach once, learn twice. But where do you see the point in this, and then what's your sort of philosophy on this? Guiding.
Guiding and mentoring, right? And it's about there's a little one word that comes immediately to mind is confidence. Yeah.
Yep.
Is having someone there that's got your back. Yeah. So someone there with a little bit of experience that you can call upon and say, hey, this is what's going on. What do you think? Right?
Yeah. And
this is where this philosophy comes in. We'll say to our students, call us anytime if you've got an issue or even just a question, and they do, and which is awesome. Like we like to be involved as well and understand people's businesses and the challenges that they're facing, and even if we can just give them one little tidbit in a phone call, that makes my day. Yeah. So it's that sharing information, being part of a community. So we talk about in reliability extra knowledge, tools, and data to the global community.
Yeah,
and that comes into that philosophy as well. Is that sharing is another word that's just come to mind. It's sharing what we've learnt. And the book that's behind me, one of the reasons why I wrote that book is there's 15 years worth of lessons in that book. And if you take 3 months to read the book and you've got 15 years of experience in what I've written in there, awesome. Awesome. And so you don't make the same mistakes that I've made over time. did I tell you how I wrote the book? Did I tell you how it came about?
No, let's do that.
I sat down and thought about all of the problems that I've had in my reliability/engineering career, and I just did a brain dump.
Yeah,
I just did a brain dump, and there was over 100 of them. I think it was 114 all told. Right? And I can remember this because I did it at my daughter's auditions for a play. So I had to take my daughter down to Newcastle, and so it was 2 hours, and I had 2 hours to sit there, and it was a beautiful spring day, and I just said, right. So I had a book coach to help me write the book, and part of the process was, the type of book that I wanted to write. I had to sit down and think about all the problems. So I sat down and just brainstormed all the problems, and just it was just wrote it on my iPad, and then
probably in Notability, but anyway,
that's all right. no plugs there. We're not sponsored by those guys. And basically, I sat down, did that, let it sit for a while, and then I went through the list again, and then I started noticing themes, and that's where I came up with the 5 habits. There's five distinct themes. That's how the book came about. So
I think what came to my mind as you were talking, and thank you for sharing about how the book came to be. I can't remember if you have told me that one yet. Our audience has heard it now, that's for sure. But with that philosophy of sharing, what come to my mind when you were talking about that, and what I feel that we really portray is the win-win philosophy. Stephen Covey was a very big influencer in the business world, in personal development world, and anyone that has read his book, it's 7 Habits of Highly Effective People.
Yeah,
it is a great book, and it talks all about different ways and different philosophies and sort of the steps that you sort of need to go through to become a highly effective, efficient person. And one of the things that always stuck out to me was this win-win philosophy. And if we're not in a win-win situation, we're losing. No matter what, someone's going to lose, and it's
someone's going to lose. Yeah, it's
not nice. All right. For us, it's about creating win-win. So we feel, and myself in particular, the more I can educate you, the better you understand what I'm trying to say, the more I can help you find a new way. And it could be any little thing, like you said, one little tidbit that we can answer in a day. There's a win for you because you've learned. There's a win for me because I've been of service. I've given a gift of knowledge, of sharing, and we get the chance to go on and support. And I feel that carries out in our philosophy with a lot of things that we do, but especially in this learning and teaching. I think it is empowering people with the skills. Like, if we really wanted, you and I could just focus on teaching ourselves and any employees that we want to teach to do things that we want them to do, and have a monopoly over these 2 spaces.
And that wouldn't sit well with me.
And it wouldn't sit well with me either. Because we're only 2 people, and then we're limited. And I think the importance, and this is one of the things that I've started to pick up, and hence I wanted to talk about it tonight, was for both Sorba and Logic, it is about sharing the knowledge, empowering other people to do this. We really want to, and we've said it to our clients, it's like, we don't want to be the data analysis. We don't want to be the people creating the Sorbots. The people creating the bots, the supervisors, the lackeys, the cluster algorithms, however you see them, are better off being the people on the ground that have the most knowledge and experience around that piece of equipment.
Yep. The expert, or the subject matter expert.
The subject matter expert.
The best positioned people
to
solve the problems in their business.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah, not Dane and 7.
No. And the same goes for RCAs. And problem solving. Now, there are a bunch of different methods, and there are a bunch of different ways, and we'll get on to one of the key things I like about Logic in a minute with that point. Though one thing I do enjoy is that we empower, again, same thing, we empower people of the organizations that choose to go the Sologic method or choose to go any path. We actually empower their employees and their people to do the facilitation, to do the problem solving. And we give them a solid, sound framework and support so that they can actually do it themselves. And the confidence.
That's it. And the confidence in themselves.
Yeah. I used to say, since we talked about yoga, I used to say to people, and this is a silly business idea when you're trying to run a yoga studio, my goal was never to make people come every single day of the week. Whilst that would have been great, my goal was for people to do yoga every day of the week.
Yes.
So I empowered them to do yoga at home.
Yep.
Business 101, you and I met doing our business degree. That's a bit of a silly move, some would say. But on turn, I found that by giving them enough knowledge, allowing to understand where they're at in their journey, and let's turn this back to us here, understand where people are at in their problem-solving journey, in their problem-solving skills and knowledge, and then give them a little bit more so that they can go out and do it on their own. We'll give them the confidence to go and start doing it. But then, if you're always there for support and you show up, they're always going to come back.
Yes.
And they're going to ask for help. And they're going to want improvement. And they're going to want opportunities. And if you're always showing up and showing them support, then you're creating the win-win.
Yep. Yep. I totally agree.
So with the problem solving, one of the other things that I really liked, and with the training, learning, guiding, coaching, and I think this is one of the other philosophies that you and I sort of carry, or values maybe is a better phrase for it.
Yeah.
But we value that there's not one shoe that fits all. There's
That's
not
right.
one way to do everything. As we've all discovered and discussed, you're more technical, more analytical, more note-taking.
Got less hair too.
I'm more feeling, emotional, personal, relatable, right?
And he's got more hair.
They got more hair.
Yeah. He's got a man. Look at that. He's got a man bun.
got a man bun.
Yeah. So look at me. Here I am in a collar and a jumper, and and you've got a t-shirt on. So they look, visually you can see the difference between us two, can't you?
Exactly. You and I operate very differently. When you learn, like when you got both these tools, you dove in, someone gave you access to them, and you went crazy. You started playing, started fiddling around, breaking it.
Yes, breaking it.
and having a go.
Yes.
I started learning by watching.
Yep.
By learning, by participating, by seeing all the little steps along the way, by doing training facilitation with yourself, and then by doing it myself. But more so than that, with Sologic, for example, there's a myriad of different elements in the Sologic process that suit what works for you.
Yep.
It suits your thought pattern. Now, Sologic has certainly simplified it down to 5 steps, and the 5 steps are guides, but it doesn't matter which order it's best to follow the 5 steps, 1 through to 5. Whilst you're completing step 1, you enter the detail in the order that suits you in step 1.
Yeah. I'm just gonna clarify there. If you're at step 4 and have to go back to step 1, do that. You don't have to, like, you start with step 1, then you go to 2, then you go to 3, then you 4, then 5. Is like the end-to-end process of Sologic. Yes. However, especially in step 3, when you're doing the analysis, the cause and effect, or your fishbone, or whichever way you want to go, and you realize, we don't know about this. We've got to go out and find some more evidence, more information on what's actually happened here. So we go back to step 1. And so yes, it's got 5 steps and you start at step 1, but it doesn't necessarily mean that you'll go from 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 and you have the problem solved.
100%, 100%.
Yeah.
And I'm really glad that you clarified that. And that spells it out a lot clearer than what I was getting to. But that's the exact point too, though. It's like you go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 with the understanding that sometimes you get to 3 and then you go back to 1. You missed a piece of information, or you didn't quite have all the pieces to go there.
Yeah.
You know, but you do the best that you can with what you've got at the time. You go back. So that's a great way of sharing that. And I think one of the other things when we're looking at the machine learning is because it's a big tool. It's a box of tools. It's a mechanic's tool chest with a few extra utes thrown in behind it.
You roll in a semi-trailer. Which tool would you like? It's like the Snapon Truck. The Snapon Truck. You know the Snapon Truck?
Yeah.
That's the Snapon Truck.
Yeah, it is.
The Snapon Truck for analysing data. There you go. We'll have to tell the team that one we came up with.
We'll have to tell that. But with that, you go to a mechanic, or an electrician or whoever, we use certain tools for certain jobs, and that's just their sort of habit. That's what they've learned to do. And that's okay.
Hold on. Okay, I'm going to wind back to that. Why do they use certain tools for certain jobs? Because it saves them time.
Exactly.
Coming back to where we started.
It saves them time. So they've learned special tricks. So part of our training value is to actually help guide them and bring out the knowledge that they already have and apply it to the tool. You know, this spanner will undo that bolt.
Yes.
But the technician might say, but I can also use that one. If I use that one, I can use it over here and do this too. It's like, excellent, good, do that.
Do that.
Yeah.
I was telling, well, people know that I've got a pilot's license, right? Like, and so flying around in single engine aeroplanes, you want to monitor that engine and look after that engine because obviously it's the thing that's providing you the energy to stay in the air, right? And if it stops, like reliability 101, like I'm flying along in an aeroplane, I'm going to suffer the consequence. is not reliable, right? Okay. Now, we might have to do a video of me flying, but anyway, we'll talk about that later. But I was using that today, right? That knowledge that I had acquired talking about exhaust gas temperatures in aeroplanes, right? Because we, like in the modern aeroplane, you get a lot of information coming your way, a lot of data. One of which most aeroplanes these days have exhaust gas temperatures on each individual cylinder. And so we monitor that temperature for its maximum. Okay, so there's no sort of secret here with a Lycoming aeroplane engine, which is a common brand of aeroplane engines, right? You know, there's different opinions on this. However, 1400 degrees Fahrenheit is the maximum that you should run your EGTs. Okay, so you control the mixture in the aeroplane depending on the altitude to actually achieve that. If you're achieving that, you say you've got your best fuel burn. I do know about lean over peak, everyone, but I'm not going to talk about that here. But that lesson that I learned, right, because we had the guy that I was talking to you about earlier was talking about injector failures in large, heavy earth-moving equipment engines. And we're talking V16 and V20s. What would you see on your EGTs if the injector was starting to fail? And his response was you'd see a higher EGT. Higher EGT relative to all of the other cylinders. So
then...
Yeah, you go.
Yeah, so then you're actually in the process of just having that conversation and discussing that and sharing your story, he's identified another story, which enables you both to learn and apply and go, well, hey, here's a potential bot that we can apply to earth-moving equipment when we get to that stage. Well, here's a learning and understanding that actually gets to be shared across the plant.
Yeah. And see, like as you're flying along in your aeroplane, you know that there's a potential problem with a cylinder, because what you'll see is a difference between the EGT starting to grow. You'll start to see it growing, and it's the difference that's the problem. So it's not just the level.
Just the temp.
It's the difference between the EGTs, and I should be drawing on my iPad rather than use my fingers. But if you can imagine on a 4-cylinder engine, I'm talking about 1400 degrees Fahrenheit here. Obviously, if we exceed that, that's a problem on all of them, righto? And we can do something about that. We can intervene. We can richen up the mixture to bring those EGT down. But if you had something like, I'm going to draw over the top here, but if you had something going like this, or even so, we had something going on like this, right, where there is a clear difference between the EGTs, you've got a problem. Okay. Right. You know you've got a problem. You might not know if it's an injector or a valve, or the inlet valve is crook, or you've got a head gasket that's crook, or you might not know that detail, but you certainly know there is a problem and it's starting to manifest itself. And the engine at this point in time is running fine. The engine at this point in time, by all accounts, is producing good power. Okay, it's still running fine. There's your early warning that you've got a problem. So, you can watch it, you can measure it. Some of the modern instruments these days, when this sort of stuff occurs, it will go red and say, hey, this one's the one that's causing you the problem in your airplane. Now, we can do that. If we capture the data of each of the EGTs on cylinders, which most modern based design engines will do, we can provide that information, and as you say, we can train a bot to recognize it, because these EGTs are dependent on load, it's complex, or we can simply put a straight limit on it. Anyway, I'm not sure if I digressed there, but
you digressed a little bit. I think it still adds value, and what it brought to my mind was the importance of utilizing what people already know. So if we were in a training program or coaching situation with an engineer, with a technician, with someone that was trying to apply either the problem solving, either the logic problem solving method, or the Sorba machine learning, we work them on this case. We work them on their own example of this.
And there's something that you just said that is common to both the machine learning and the logic. And it's that visualization of the problem. It's that visualization of the data, or getting the data in the form of, I'm going to draw this one. And there's the commonality between the two. Data. And we did this one at university, Dane. This is really taking us back. Data, we turn that into information. Information gets turned into knowledge, that then gets turned into wisdom. That triangle. So was it us that we were talking about all this data in an organization that is totally underutilized? Like organizations collect all this data that's totally underutilized. Right?
That's 100%. And I think there's a whole new podcast on that, on just data utilization and capturing and the importance of it. Like we've discussed, I come from the electrical side of things. Everything these days is hooked up to PLCs. You've got instrumentation measuring anything and everything. And all the PLC currently tells you for a lot of places is if things are on, off, and running, or at what volume of produce is moving through, like a flow rate or something like that, or maybe a voltage or a current, or that's it. And And it's only if they're looking at it at the time does anything happen. Whereas with both problem solving and machine learning, if we can actually capture that data and review that data and understand, what's going on at that point in time, of potential failure, we can use so let's tie them right in together. We're talking EGTs on a plane or on a truck. Say we're doing a V12 truck. All of a sudden, the technician goes in and we're training someone. Say we're training a new reliability engineer, fresh out of university. And we're going, okay, you've got a truck there, a V12, and you want to get, your exhaust pressures running. What sort of alarms? Or hang on, better yet, say one fails. You have a failure, injector failure. Like, okay, what's causing that? They do an RCA. All of a sudden, they capture the information. They use the data that they've got from the machine learning algorithm to help as evidence, right, to support their process. Then they identify that there's a cause X, and then they're able to go back into machine learning. So exactly, collected the data, got the information, understood and found the knowledge within, and then created the bot on that very example.
Yes.
To analyze the data constantly and become the wisdom that is just the bot barking up every now and then to tell us that this is wrong. And then that corporate wisdom. And it's ingrained. It's not left with that new graduate engineer. Yes.
It's dare I say it, systemized. What do they call it? There's a buzzword for capturing corporate knowledge and utilizing it, and I've just lost it. I know a lot of these learning management people use the word. It'll come to me. It'll come to me. But what I was going to sort of come in with a different angle, right? Yep. So you're familiar with the term greybeard?
Yep.
Right. So greybeard, an older person, been around, knows a lot.
Yeah.
Okay. Some people would argue that they've got wisdom.
Yes.
They've been there and seen it all. Okay. So imagine if I had a greybeard, right? So I'm just going to draw my little dude with a grey beard there, right? He's blue beard, but it's grey, all right?
Yeah.
Okay. He has all this wisdom, whether, on mining trucks. Okay. That's all his whole life he's known mining trucks. Okay. He could say, radio, something's just happened. This is what could go wrong with our mining truck. Okay. And he could impart that knowledge onto our graduate.
Yep.
Right. Impart that knowledge, right? And where our graduate can use the data to turn it into information. Sorry, I'll change colours here. Turn it into information that this problem is about to occur, that this greybeard has just communicated to him.
Yeah.
Yeah? And so I'm just putting a slightly different spin on it in using that framework. And in both like problem solving and the machine learning space, they both turn it into a visual format, right? And the other interesting thing is that both are working towards getting that wisdom permanently ingrained into the business.
Yeah.
So that, from a reliability point of view, we know that this problem is occurring. We don't suffer it in an unplanned sense.
Yeah. Yeah. And one of the beautiful things, as I always like to add the human element to it, is that then that graduate engineer, after talking to the greybeard, actually feels empowered. He's empowered the greybeard that now all of a sudden the young guys are listening to him. The corporate business are actually listening to him and seeing something that he might have known for ages, but it's actually now being acted upon. So there's an empowerment. There's actually a buy-in to the company. There's a buy-in to the organisation that they're doing well. And whether or not they stay or go or do whatever they do around the company, they can at least, I've said it before, at the end of the day, go home knowing they've done a good job, knowing that they've done something of value, They've added value to the business. Some may debate that, oh yeah, I'm giving up my knowledge and I'm writing myself off and I'm decreasing my value, so I'm then just becoming a number. I actually disagree. I feel that you're actually sharing your value and you're adding value to the business. So you're actually, the willingness and the enthusiasm to actually give that on actually makes you a more valuable employee.
Yes.
And then, even if you do move on, you've then got the ability to do that somewhere else if they don't have that same wisdom. And you've also passed it on to a younger guy. Like, I think, unfortunately, we live in a world of scarcity, and sometimes people tend to go, I want to protect my skills and I want to be invaluable and I want to be everything to everyone. But we can't be. And when we start to share and we start to show more and we start to give that information, the gravy could learn something from the graduate.
Yes. Yes, agreed. Totally agree.
And we can share that information. It becomes a mutual going back and forth. And I wasn't sure where that was all going, though. I think for you and I, it's a very similar situation. We've both got an array of experience from very different angles that we share openly, and we're open to learning as well.
Yes.
We're open to learning along the way. Like, we know that we don't know everything. Yes. We know that we're giving it the information that we've got. And there's been times where you and I both walked out of something and go, I didn't realize that we could do that.
Yes. Like, We're excited.
We're excited and we're like, oh, look at that. And we've had the humility to actually even say to the clients, like, we didn't know that we could do that, but how exciting is that we can? And they're like, okay. It's like, we're always still learning. We're always still growing. And by actually sharing, and even if you look at that, if you actually take Greybeard's information and he gets the power to instill it into the organization or into the graduate engineer, he builds that rapport with the graduate engineer, and then the Greybeard knows that it's not all reliant on him to know that. He might learn something too.
Yeah.
He's got the capacity to continue and learn something else. And I think in wrapping up before we go on more tangents, one thing I also like about both these tools and tool chests or trucks,
tool chest,
is that with sharing that, with empowering people to learn new skills and opening them up to new mindsets and new opportunities, it's creating a more powerful world in this space. We've talked about being driven by needing to do things faster, run things longer, and so forth, and not getting time or space to actually think and be engineers anymore, or to assess the real issues with production. We haven't even talked about the production side of things, but by solving production problems instead of just putting out fires all the time, we're not just training people in how to do this, how to use these tools, but how to think critically about other things.
Exactly. And then I'm going to say opening up the toolbox a little bit, opening the toolbox so you can look inside and see what tools are available to you.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Well, I think we've just about wrapped that up. I think we've covered a lot of areas of training, learning, coaching, mentoring. We've gone off on a few tangents like we always do. Which is
natural for us. Natural for us.
And like always, smash the like button, subscribe, give reviews, give feedback. If you've got this through anywhere, if it's on LinkedIn, if it's off our websites or whatever, write us comments, give us feedback, and get in touch. We love to hear your views. We love to hear what you've got to say. And if you have a difference of view.
Yeah, even tell us some problems that you solved.
Yeah, tell us some problems that you solved. Tell us some things that you've come across, or if there is a problem that you were really proud of, and a piece of information. It's like, well, we figured out this with the EGT, and that was great. It's like awesome, because we love to hear those things. We love to hear what wins you have had along the way. And we hope you've got something out of it. We hope that our little podcast, our little moments of fireside chatting are helping you, even if it's just reminding you of other ways, of other perspectives, or of something that you might have learned many years ago. We thank you all for listening. And with that, we'll say au revoir and thank you all. Thanks again, Seven, for joining me. And
thank you.
Always enjoy these chats. And we'll talk to you again soon.
No worries. See you, everyone.
Bye.